The Pentagon is silently becoming a buyer of weight loss drugs, and they're buying more and more of them every year. Check out this year-over-year growth rate, up 232% from FY22 to fiscal year 23, up 306% to fiscal year 2024. Now, during that time, the DoD spent $123 million on GLP-1 drugs. We don't know yet what the FY25 numbers are going to look like. If you look at them right now, it's August of 2025. Fiscal year ends at the end of September. Plus, there's a lag in reported spending. So we'll know those numbers a little more accurately in a few more months. It's really that growth rate that we're looking at, because in government terms, 123 million isn't a lot of money. And in GLP-1 terms, it's not a lot either. It begs another question. Why is the government buying weight loss drugs? Why is the DoD specifically? Because this is specific to Pentagon spending. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, but as we start looking at the charts, we're going to see 123 million spent across over 19,000 individual awards. And the average award size is about $6,215. Average offers. Now, this is really the key. If you look at this chart, average number of offers, 1. Why is that? Well, because one company predominantly makes these drugs, and they have a patent, which is probably going to ensure that we keep seeing these sole source awards, or these awards where there's only one offer. There's only one person that can do the work, then that becomes an easy sole source justification for the government. Otherwise, by the way, Rick Howard, didn't even introduce myself, former government acquisitions officer. I managed over $82 billion in contracts for the Department of Defense. Now I run GovClose, the #1 training program for government contracting professionals, meaning if you want to get into government contracting as a sales executive, or you want your company to start winning government contracts, govclose.com, check it out. I have video after video on that, but that's not what this is about. This is about GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and why the U.S. military is buying them and how they're buying them. We want to understand spending, even if you don't give a rat's ass about Ozempic and GLP-1. I really don't care about those, right? I just go to the gym, but there's a lot of reasons for taking these drugs. What we're doing here is we're understanding the government contracting data that's available, and it's available across for every industry, everything the government buys. It's 297 available pieces of information publicly for everything that they buy. And this gives us a lot of insight as to what's going on. So we can do the same drill for any industry, and we often do, and we have. You can check out our YouTube channel, check out the archives if you want to learn about some of the other industries and things that the government's buying. But we can see here who's buying it, right? Department of Defense, Defense Logistics Agency, which is a sub-agency. They do buy a lot of things like pharmaceuticals, products, tools, stuff like that. And then we can see here, DLA Troop Support, Medical Supply Chain, Pharmaceuticals Division, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Rick, how do you know where this exact office is? Remember, guys, when we're selling to the government, we know who we're selling to, meaning if we do the work, we're not throwing darts, right? Most people in the government, most people in the military will never, ever be able to buy anything from you. And most of them don't even know how the government buys things to begin with, right? So selling to the government is not like a B2B or B2C traditionally. The similarity is we still want to create a relationship with the buyer. The advantage we have with the government is we can see who the buyer is. So we want to be specific. In this case, we know, because I did the research, that this DLA Troop Support office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is one of the leading offices for buying this type of these GLP-1 weight loss drugs. So if I was working with a company to build their sales plan, you better believe that our sales executives would be hanging out in Philadelphia pretty routinely. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of these drugs that they're actually buying, except for Ozempic, which, is all over the news. But they all fall under the GLP-1 drug. I was going to say manifesto, but that's not the right word here, right? But umbrella, maybe. And then we can see that these are mainly products, not services, right? So that's what that circle indicates there. Now, why is this happening, right? We always got to look at policy. We always got to look at not just government contracting data and not just what you're selling, but with selling to the government, we do have to look at politics. We do have to look at, what are the directives in different agencies that they're putting out, because that is going to be an indicator of where the funding is going. We can see the VA's 2020 for policy for cardiovascular risk reduction, right? So that may be one of the reasons the VA is making purchases here. Medicare Part D now covering one of these drugs as well. And Tricare is going to be covering select GLP-1 starting this month, at least by the last piece of research I saw. So we may see some increased spending there. Tricare, by the way, is basically think of it as health insurance for military and military veterans that are retired. Now, this chart just lets you know that in the realm of how much money these drug companies are making, this is just a flash in the pan. $120+ million is really, it's under 1% of what they're raking in here. But some of the policy changes, we could be seeing a rapid increase. And we've already seen an insane year-over-year increase in the amount of spending for these type of drugs. It's the growth rate and the closed procurement structure that's really making this interesting. There's always second, third, fourth order effects to everything in life, especially government contracting. So there's going to be opportunity here for people, even if you don't own the patent or you can't sell the pharmaceuticals themselves. We want to look for those other opportunities and see if we can connect the dots. This is not very typical when we look at the federal marketplace. You have one product, one vendor, one office winning all the awards. What does this actually mean? Well, this could be a good vendor for small businesses to partner with. We always have to read what direction the wind's blowing in, take a look at who's winning the contracts. Because remember, prime contracting is not the only game in town. Subcontracting, there are many other forms of government contracts, ways we can profit from how much money the Department of Defense and the other government agencies are putting out there. We put this together with our GovClose proprietary road mapping algorithm. And remember, there's a lot of different ways to look at data. We try to be objective. We try to eliminate the noise. And we try to be very specific when we're showing you how the government buys. Check out our next video on cybersecurity services. We're going to break that down, a specific subset. We're going to show you what services are hot right now, which ones the government are buying, and which ones they're really not.